everybody. Thanks for joining again. I'm so excited to bring you this conversation with my good friend, Liz Frayer. Liz and I go back a few years. Actually, Liz and I worked together when I was with the company that I helped start, Bravo Wellness. And it was an exciting time. We had some great experiences together. And I've really enjoyed seeing Liz grow through her journey of business ownership and leadership. And we've worked together a little bit. So before I take over telling everybody about you, because I know a little bit more about you than most of my guests, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Liz?
Sure. So my name is Liz. I live in Atlanta. I run a company with 20 employees, notably all female. We run a benefits consulting business. So David and I work together trying to make companies more healthy and motivate their employees. So that's our history. I wasn't a natural entrepreneur. I started out actually as a temporary employee and kind of just halfway waited people out and halfway did my best, and the stars aligned. And I was able to buy my business in 2013. And so that's a little bit of my history and been learning the entire time along the way.
I love it. That's the one thing that I love about you, Liz. And that's one of the things that I know is core to who you are, is being a lifelong learner. And I think that's awesome. What attracted you to the insurance industry or the insurance business and the employee benefits business?
Well, I studied French and Italian in school. So
That's close. French and Italian is close to
yeah,
insurance. It's a whole different language. So
hop, skip, and a jump. So I really wanted to be, I wanted to do something in journalism, but I have always been a better team player work-wise than a student. So I didn't get into journalism school. And then the more I talked to people, they were doing things that they hadn't studied in school. And so I decided to major in something that would be really hard to learn on the job, which was something I loved, which was languages. So I studied French and Italian, Romance languages, and people think that that's weird that I chose that. But I'm in Atlanta, and I was in college in the early 90s, and we had a little bit of a big event here in 1996, which was the Olympics. Yep. And so I ended up working for the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games, ACOG, for about a year. When I got to use my language, I got to meet a lot of people. And the neat thing about it is, you know, most executives or people with a lot of experience, they don't quit their jobs to go work for the Olympics for a year. So I was able to basically have an elevated position that I was way underqualified for, because of my language skills and because nobody else would do it. So after ACOG, I realized there wasn't much opportunity for romance language majors in Atlanta after the Olympics ended. And so I was placed from a temp agency into my benefits agency. And I really was trying to get more office experience. I didn't think it would become a career. And that was, almost 23 years ago. So
that's amazing.
Things have a way of working out.
Yeah. So you went from a temp to being a full-time employee to actually owning the agency. Tell me about that journey a little bit. So once you got hired, what were some of the leadership habits that you developed or worked on in yourself to grow yourself so that you could move into that position?
Well, I was really surprised because, again, I hadn't been a great student. I wasn't used to being an all-star in any way. And I'm not being modest here. That's the actual facts. But when I came to work and I realized, wow, you could show up on time. My dad's a salesman. He always told me, call people back. And so even if it was somebody calling on me and I wasn't at all interested, if they took the time to pick up the phone, I had a rule that I called them back. That was from my dad. So getting people back, getting back to people timely, being a good listener, showing up on time. All of a sudden I was kind of catapulted to, having a lot more opportunity in the agency, just by doing things that I thought were common sense and having a good work ethic. Um, my journey is about just taking the opportunity and making the most of it.
Love it. Sounds too like you just kind of did some of the what like fundamentals or the basics. Of calling people back, doing the things that seem like common sense, but maybe aren't so common, I guess, anymore.
Yeah, I never thought that it would end up being my career.
Sure.
But I took a lot of pride in, hey, I'm here. My reputation is here. And I was 22 at the time. So
Wow.
I think that is, my advice to your emerging leaders would be, um, just don't rule anything out. Be open and always do your best.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things that I know about you is that in your organization, the benefits agency that you own, or owned, we'll get to that in a minute. Culture is a really important thing to you, and it has been. I know that you've won the best places to work for a number of years. I don't remember how many years, but why was that so important to you? And like, what have you done to earn some of those awards?
Insurance agencies aren't known for, and I think this is changing, by the way, but insurance agencies aren't known for kind of having a lot of energy. It's more, when I came in, every wall was beige, every chair was beige, every cube was beige.
Right.
It had a bank type atmosphere, which, is very typical for financial services, but it wasn't. I was looking for a place to contribute, but also be able to offer some creativity. So I wanted to create an atmosphere that encourage people to be creative. I also wanted to build an atmosphere that, hey, if we don't have you in this exact role, we want you to basically use the talents that you already have, even if it means that we haven't nailed down and defined your job on a one sheet of paper. I want you to bring things to the table that you enjoy and are your natural talents. And most of all, I work there too. So I want it to
Yeah.
be a place that I enjoy going. Most of A lot of what we do is service oriented. People call us and they are sharing, maybe for the first time they're sharing a medical scare that they have, and so I take that very personally and with a lot of honor. And so I want to instill those values in my team members, so that we can best serve our clients and follow through on everything.
Love it. How do you teach people how to do that? How do you instill that in your team? Because you have 20 people who you need to have that same passion that you do. How do you do that?
A lot of it is getting the right people on the team from the first start. The whole
Sure.
good to great type of thing is
Yep.
getting the right people on board. I am somewhat competitive in nature. I don't like to lose. And so generally, if somebody isn't the right person, it's a lot for me to admit that. And
Mm.
if there's a weakness, it's holding on to people too long.
Ah,
So I think we hire people who come with the right attitude, and then it's my job to foster, create opportunity so that they can grow and stay motivated, and then b, making sure that we have the right reminders around why we're doing this, or the right perspective. So today, my team is, we are packing lunches for kids who are on lunch assistance during the school year.
oh,
And
cool.
it takes an hour.
Yeah.
Um, so anybody who's listening to this who's in a leadership role, we do a lot of team building activities that cost money, but we also do a lot that don't cost money.
Mhm.
Volunteering doesn't cost money, as some of the most meaningful team building activities that we've had. So you can be creative. Um, you don't have to have a whole nother budget for culture. You can just be creative. Ask your team members what they want to do, um, and it can come together that way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love the giving back and really, by doing that, it shows that you care about, the community, and you really care about your people as well. You've gone through some transition, I know, over the past, 6, 8, 9 months, maybe a year now. I've kind of lost track of time.
Yeah,
Tell,
either way.
eh,
Me
tell us
too.
about that transition. I'll bet you have.
Yeah. Well, we actually, I'm trying to think of how to tell the story, and I need to get better at it. So your emerging leaders can give me some feedback on how I tell this story, because I've got my other story locked down.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I was buying my agency. I had a peer group of people who were buying their agencies, and we always, I don't know, in a way, we're business partners, but not officially. And so I've always enjoyed being on a team. And so actually this past January 1, I've recombined with all of my peers, and which include many of my best friends and people I respect and think are the smartest people in the world, um, mainly for the intent of, I much rather have somebody on the other side of me to high five
Hmm.
when we have a celebration. Um, and so that's the big change with us, that is super exciting.
I love it. No, that's so cool. And I know, that teamwork is so important to you. You mentioned that you were part of and are part of a peer group. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how has that impacted your growth, both either professionally and or personally too? So, because I'm a big proponent of peer groups. Sometimes I'll call them a mastermind, but that coming together to help each other and spur each other on. What has that meant for you?
I mean, it's the world. For me, I was running a benefit agency, and I had a lot of the same problems as my peers, but I didn't know anybody in Atlanta who did the same thing as me. So, and most of the time when we were getting together, it was not in Atlanta; it was offsite, where really the people in my peer group are always going to ask me, if I want to make a business decision and I'm asking their advice. They're going to ask me, what does that making that decision do? Whether it's partnering with a vendor and offering a new service, if it's adding a new position, if it's terminating an employee. They are the people who ask me, what is this going to do to help you uh, attract or retain new clients, or attract or retain employees? And it's really always about those two questions. Um, but you're not always honest when you're with yourself, when you ask yourself those questions. So a lot of times I will call many of them,
Yep.
through your prior work, just to have them ask me that question. And a lot of times I know the answer, but I need the motivation and the accountability. And so it's half motivation, it's half accountability. um, for me, I was lucky, in that my prior 2 companies ago, I guess I've never left the same agency, but now we have different iterations. um,
Hmm.
I became attracted to those people. I don't think you can wait around and wait for somebody to ask you to be in a peer group. All of us
Hmm.
were leaders in our own way who wanted that type of support, motivation, and accountability, and we sought each other. And the perfect side effect is they're also super cool and fun to hang out with, and people I would want to be my friends outside of business. And but the string that brought us together was the looking for that support and friendship, and just camaraderie that comes with being the only people who really understand what you do. And I don't think you have to wait until you're running the company to do that. You could be a temp and make some temp friends and say, this is what I'm trying to decide in my role. And so I think the sooner people can do that, um, the better it is. And make sure that you're a giver on the team. um, my my reason my peer group is so great is because we seek out to help each other, and if we have a good idea, we're the first to share it with one another. Sometimes we've had people in our peer group, and they end up being more takers, and it's not as fun.
Yep. Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that you sought people out, and I think that, and you sought out a peer group. And I think I think that's the key. That's one key that I see. I'm part of a couple of different peer groups, and for different reasons. And it's amazing how when you're in that group, just like you said, having someone else ask you the question that maybe you've thought about in your own head, but having another human being sitting there and asking you, well, what's that going to do for you, and how's that going to impact your company, and is that how will that attract more
Hmm.
people? It makes a difference. It makes a
Hmm.
big difference. And I think, at least for me, I don't know about what you would think about this, but it spurs me on to greater achievement because
Hmm.
of those people. And I will do things more for that accountability, and also knowing that somebody else in my inner circle believes in me and believes that I
100%.
can do
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So, as you've walked through this, mastermind, peer group experience, what would you, I guess, what would you recommend for someone who is an aspiring leader? Maybe they don't own their own company. Maybe they're a leader. Maybe they are a temp. How would you have them go about that?
Um, you know, find people with different strengths. Um, in my group, again, we all have personalities that really click. But there are different people with different levels of expertise in certain areas, which is super helpful to me. And some of it's going to happen organically, and then you just have to push it. So you might meet the great people, but you might have to be the one to say, "Hey guys, let's get together. Let's find a reason to meet, and let's get something regular." Um, I'm of the mindset that you can learn something from anybody. So I think being open, I think, nowadays, sometimes I have a new rule around hiring people. Um, you know, uh, Sometimes, generally, when people start with us, I want them to start similar to the path that I had. I really
Sure.
want to meet somebody who is kind of at the very front of their career.
Mm,
Number one, it's rewarding for me to try to help somebody grow their career. So it's a
yeah.
little bit maybe selfish.
Sure.
But number two, I don't want to untrain any values that were already put in by working for a different company. Um,
Sure.
so I think that it makes sense to just, again, get the right people on board.
Yeah, I love that. No, and I think yeah, that's definitely a good approach. As you look at, your career, your journey in business and leadership, the word success is bantered around a whole bunch, and I'm always curious to know from different people that I talk with, what that word means to them. And so I'd just be curious to know, what does success mean to you, and what does that look like?
Success for me would be really doing the things that I want to do when I'm not paid for it.
Mm,
And I actually stole that from Dana Spinola, who is a local Atlanta business leader who just wrote a book called Love What You Do. So that's a plug for her.
cool.
Um, but what do you do? There's things I do. I love doing marketing things. I love planning team events. I love um, thinking about where our agency is going to be in the next year. Um, Maybe more from a more logistical standpoint than other leaders.
Hmm.
I'm not the what happens in 20 years. I'm kind of in a 12 to 18 months type perspective.
Sure.
I think about those things a lot. So I think that my job is making sure that not only I think through the vision, but I communicate it well so people understand that they're on the path to the future, and not assume that. And that's, again, something I struggle with, is making sure I'm communicating well. Sometimes I'll have a star employee, and I need to make sure that they know that I feel like they're a star employee.
Yeah. And just on that note too, how do you do that? How do you communicate? How do you make sure that you are communicating, well and frequently enough?
Yeah, well, that's probably my team would probably have a lot of feedback on that. So for me, I'm still figuring it out. I like to have independent relationships with each person. So
Mm,
there's certain things that um, we do consistently, but there's certain things about my relationship with each team member that is just special to me, and I want it to be different. I don't want to be the place where, it's your anniversary and there's a potted plant and everybody gets a potted plant.
yeah.
Sometimes that ruffles feathers. Sometimes people are like, why is Liz, you know, going to this event with this person on the team, and she didn't ask me.
Yeah.
So it's not always the easy path, but the answer is because like I want to have unique and special relationships with everybody I'm spending the majority of my time with, in my life with, really, is at the office. Trying to make things special and unique and um, cater to that person.
I love that. No, that really speaks highly of your care for your people, and I mean, I already knew that myself, but I think for people listening, I think that's a real great leadership trait, is to care for your people and do things that actually matter for them. I heard it said. Matter of fact, I was at a training event last night. And somebody said, we've got to practice the platinum rule. We always talk about the golden rule, and it's really more about how others would want to be treated and not necessarily how you want to be treated.
Oh,
Because,
that's cool. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that.
I think it's really a cool idea, and it's a great it's a great way to be and to be able to act so that we're looking at the needs of our people. So I don't want to take more of your day than that we planned today, Liz, and I appreciate your generosity. Last question that I'll have for you here. So on my wall here in my office, I have a sign that says "Play like a champion" today. It's a Notre Dame sign, a reference to Notre Dame, but it reminds me to always do the things that will help me to be that champion. And so I'm curious for you, if you were to think about playing like a champion today, what are those daily habits, or what are those things that you do that really make you feel like you're playing like a champion each
Yeah. So
day?
first of all, I want a sign like that.
Ah, you
So
can get it.
I want you to send me this sign or send me the thing. I'll print it out.
Okay.
Um, and the reason I say that is probably the reason you hung the sign is that a lot of it is creating your environment. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm not a naturally organized person. I still carry around a Franklin Covey or daytime or organizer, write everything down. But if you come to my office, the front of my desk that I face, there's nothing on it except for what I'm working on. Behind me on the credenza, if they still call it that,
Yeah.
is a stacks and stacks of paper that I'm not working on.
Yeah.
Um, so I also, I write down what I have to do today, and then I number the priority. I tend not to be super organized. I can be a little bit of a procrastinator at times, especially with difficult conversations.
Mm.
So I write the priority, and then I want to think about, what have I done today to make tomorrow better, or what am I going to do this week to make next week better? What am I going to do this year to make next year better? Um, to me, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And I have to, even in my personal life, if I I love to watch Netflix and binge a season, but if I haven't had the smallest level of accomplishment, maybe it's fold the clothes, or maybe it's schedule something for my son that I've been needing to do. If I haven't had that smallest level of accomplishment, I try to withhold the reward for myself. Progress is the product, and so I never really shoot for perfect. I only shoot for better.
Love it. I love it. Never shoot for perfect. Just shoot for better.
I just made that up. How
Yeah,
good is that?
that's awesome. I'm going to quote you.
Yeah.
That's going to, yeah. I love that. Yeah, that'll be the quote for this episode.
Oh,
So
yay. Good.
I love it. I love it. Liz, thank you so much. I so appreciate you taking time. You're one of my favorite people in the world. I have loved having our friendship, and I know that great things are ahead for you still. And I'm just so thankful that you shared your journey with us here today.
Well, thank you. And let me say that we appreciate the work you've done with our team. You have such a nice, confident, but
Mm.
approachable way to you. And everybody is attracted to that. And so I know that's why you've got a bunch of people on the call, and I know they have a lot to learn. And I know we all have a lot to learn. So I hope everybody plays like a champion today. And I'm going to look
Awesome.
for my sign.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good, Liz. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, David.
Bye.